Indian life connected with the Middle East and Europe following a successful invasion by Persia, today's Iran, in the northwest to the Indus River area, and then later by Alexander the Great and the Greeks. Alexander had defeated Persia and thus marched into India. There was cross-cultural trade between the two empires, Indian spices and tea for Greek wine and olive oil. In 326 BCE, Alexander's troops were exhausted and did not take all of India. Alexander's death shortly thereafter caused confusion. A local Maharaja, Maurya, adopted Alexander's military tactics with elephants and conquered much of northern India. He developed infrastructure to continue trade with the Middle East and Europe through its spices. His grandson, Ashoka, began violently by confronting his brothers for control of the empire. Thousands were killed as he swept through the Deccan Plateau. Ashoka eventually adopted Buddhism and became vegan. His administration practiced paternalism. All of his officials were Buddhist, therefore the religion spread through the whole subcontinent as people wanted to be loyal to their leader. The revenue created by taxes and the spice trade led to the creation of primitive hospitals and other agencies to help the poor. This was an early form of socialism, give from the rich to the poor. So while Ashoka had started violently, he would adopt principles that would be accepted to the majority of the population, creating a very stable economy and empire. After Ashoka's death, his successors did not practice the same system. Internal revolts erupted, and finally the empire dissolved in 184 BCE. While trade continued and even increased to China and Africa, it did so from individual city-states rather than a unified central government. Buddhism would spread to China and Southeast Asia since it did not have a caste system. They would more easily embrace Buddhism. However, Buddhism declined inside India as more people preferred Hindu culture. Eventually, you would have a new empire arise, the Gupta Empire. One major development was a primitive road system connecting northern India to China. Thus, Chinese goods became transported across Asia to the Middle East and Europe. This is known as the Silk Road, more or less clear paths from China to East Asia. So trade would evolve all the way to Europe, and notice the green line connecting India to that Silk Road. This is the map of the Gupta Empire, mostly in the northern area. Hindu culture, Indian society was patriarchal. Marriages were arranged when children were as young as 8 or 9, often not for love but for family unions. Over time, women lost many rights, getting married at the beginning of puberty to men 10 years older. Purdah was the confinement of married women to certain rooms of the home, and they had to wear a veil in public. This was adopted after the Persian invasions and later by Islamic law. Buddhists and Jains did not adhere to this practice, and sati was a practice where widows were thrown atop the dead husband's funeral pyre to enhance fidelity. Again, they were burned alive to make sure that they could not marry someone else. The practice remained until the mid-20th century when the British tried to outlaw this practice.